And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left and tabs for the territories. You click anywhere on this map and it will pull up a very specific forecast with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. And of greatest note here this Wednesday afternoon on the weather map here in the continental U.S., we have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings across much of the southern portion, south central areas of the U.S., centered on Arkansas, western, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee. Air temperatures are going to be up into the upper 90s to maybe just over 100 degrees with heat indices above 110 to 115. Very dangerous heat. In between, we have an area of severe weather, a couple severe thunderstorm watches from Nebraska down through Kansas, eastern Colorado, and then further west, a building heat wave for much of the west, all the way from Washington, Oregon, down through California into Arizona, Nevada, areas of Idaho. And as a result, we're looking at triple-digit heat. Las Vegas could be seeing some record high temperatures up around 118 degrees with heat indices of even higher values. Many triple-digit heat air temperatures above 110 anticipated starting this holiday and continuing into early next week. That does have a bearing on our weather pattern in Alaska because when you have that heat dome, the ridge build in the western U.S., that cools Alaska down. And we're going to see that. There still is a wind advisory in effect for the east central interior that includes the Yukon Flats till 10 o'clock this Wednesday evening. Gusty southwest winds as high as 35 to 45 miles an hour could cause a problem, especially with fanning the flames of existing wildfires. Once we get by that threat, it's all associated with a cold front that's slowly sinking southeastward across the central eastern interior, but it's bringing about a cooler and wetter weather pattern that will greatly reduce the fire danger, especially as we go through tomorrow and into the upcoming weekend. Check out some of these rainfall amounts, potentially 2 to 4 inches of rain along with windy conditions along the west coast into the western interior. Some of the rivers and creeks there along the south side of the Brooks Range into the west central interior could experience some notable rises. Also with those gusty winds, there could be some elevation of the surf there along the west coast. But in reverse, as things cool down and it gets wetter across a good portion of the mainland, it's going to get dry and warmer across the Panhandle this weekend into early next week with some of the warmest temperatures in the southern Panhandle. Areas there could likely see temperatures getting back up into the 70s. But here, Fort Yukon has had a frontal passage. FROPA is an old aviation term for the old Service A observations that used to be around here 25 or more years ago. Frontal passages occurred, and I turned the camera, looked at the southern sky because you can see this haze from the smoke. Now, if I could show you the northern picture, it'd be a little clearer. At least there, the visibility would be a little better there along the horizon. And 61 degrees. Ambler, there toward the west, has had rain, steady rain, and low clouds and fog. Temperature at 52 degrees. Ambler could see 2 or more inches of rainfall, as much as 2 to 4 inches of rain in that area of the southwestern slopes of the Brooks Range. So area rivers and creeks are going to be rising with this rainfall, and certainly a good thing from the standpoint of fire danger. Now, the Kenai Peninsula, Soldotna enjoying mostly sunny skies, temperature up around 60 as of mid-afternoon. There's potential for some moderate rain to move into Soldotna, into the Kenai Peninsula, areas surrounding Cook Inlet as we go into, especially starting later tomorrow evening, July 4th, but especially Friday evening and into the day on Saturday. Could be some steadier rains that even push up into Anchorage. Cape Spencer there along the outer coast of the northern Panhandle, cloudy sprinkles. You can see the clouds hugging the coastal mountains there. Still a few lingering light showers across areas of the northern half of the Panhandle, but I took a look at some of the cameras down there around Ketchikan, Metlakatla, enjoying sunshine, a little warmer temperatures. But here are the current advisories and areas of concern. We have a wind advisory in effect until 10 o'clock for the area that includes the Yukon Flats. Gusty southwest winds ahead of this cold front that is slowly sinking southward is responsible for that wind advisory. And the main concern with any fires through this region is that you're going to have these enhanced breezes that could cause, at least flame or fan the flames of those ongoing fires. To the west, though, the rains are spreading eastward. Already in this area here, we're seeing cloudier skies with low visibilities and fog and some steadier rain. And that will be the case here for the next couple of days in the Panhandle. What lingering moisture is across this region will tend to dry out, and we're going to see a trend toward warmer and drier weather over the weekend, and especially by early next week. Some of the warmest temperatures will set up across the southern Panhandle. Quick check of the fire, Alaska Wildland Fire Dashboard. We have right now 173 active fires. Notice today, though, no lightning strikes, at least through mid-afternoon, because the threat of convection of thunderstorms has greatly diminished. This front's bringing in cooler, more stable air, but it's still going to bring in some rain. And as far as acreage that has been consumed this fire season, approaching 500,000 acres now, up there at 485,000 or so. So it's been definitely a more active fire weather season here through the month of June. Things are, though, going to significantly, at least the fire threat and fire danger will be significantly reduced here coming up starting July 4th and into the weekend. Because notice, with the rains, cloud cover, no threat of really lightning or anything like that. There are a few areas of higher fire danger in the south central areas, but compared to what we were seeing, we had very high to extreme fire danger here in the central eastern interior to the Alcan border. That's been dampened, and that will continue here as we go through the weekend. So forecast for rain coming up here Thursday. You're going to get a pretty good soaking around Fairbanks. So those rains will make eastward progress up to the Tanana Valley. But notice out west here in the west central interior, and then back through the southwest, Bethel on over between Bethel and Dillingham. Some pretty good soaking rains are going to set up here on Thursday for July 4th. Little bit of a let up as the system works its way eastward. It will dry out a bit, but still some lingering showers at Talkeetna Mountains, the Alaska Range along Prince William Sound. We have another batch of rain up here along the northwest Arctic coast. There's a low out in this region with a front that's stalled, but there is going to be another surge of moisture come up along the Alaska Peninsula, Shelikof Strait, Cook Inlet, in around the Kenai Peninsula, and that will be coming later on Friday into Saturday. We expect some steadier rains that could definitely impact areas like Anchorage in that time frame. But looking at the satellite imagery this afternoon, well, we have the front that's pushing slowly southeastward. We have an area of low pressure up in the Arctic Ocean helping to drive that front a little further south. And then we have a weaker low located south of the Gulf. It's going to stay there. We have a push of warmer air coming in off of the Bering Sea. And when I say warmer, that's relative. The main thing is it's moisture laden. This moisture is going to be working its way east-northeastward across the southwest, western coastline into the mainland here. And that's going to be part of the moisture, this system feeding up, that'll give that secondary shot of moisture as we go through Friday evening into Saturday along Cook Inlet. So again, this wet pattern, it's here to stay probably through about mid-month. So here's the initial leading cool front, and it has had some gustier southwest winds ahead of it that have concerned firefighters just because of the ongoing fires, especially like the Grapefruit Complex that's between Fairbanks and Minto. And then we have the Denali, the fire near Denali, the Ripley Creek, or Riley Creek rather, and that fire still needs to be contained. So far, so good, but it's close to the park entrance there. And then we have this push of milder air coming in off the Barren that has quite a bit of moisture with it later tonight into early on Thursday morning. This front just kind of washes out, pushing into northwest Canada into the central interior. The warm front also begins to diminish, kind of becomes more of a trough as we get into the 4th of July afternoon. Just kind of a remnant trough with the initial cold front that dropped in from the north and west. This trough is going to kind of just sit there and weaken as we go into Friday, but it's going to be a shunt by which additional moisture may ride up along this boundary as we get into Friday night and Saturday. So that could bring that steadier rain up along areas of surrounding Cook Inlet into the Kenai Peninsula all the way up into the Anchorage Bowl. But the coolest air stays up here out over the Arctic Ocean. That will be drawn southward at some point. But meanwhile, we have some ridging that will be developing this weekend and hold over the Panhandle into Western Canada. And that is why I think the trend for the Panhandle, especially the southern half of the Panhandle, will be warmer and drier as we go through the long holiday weekend and early next weekend. Areas most likely to benefit from that, if you're in Ketchikan or Klawok or one of those places, you could very well see temperatures getting back up into the 70s. But in the meantime, lows generally at or above 50 in the Panhandle for tonight into Thursday morning. Generally upper 30s to low 50s south central. Temperatures Thursday afternoon in the 60s across much of the Panhandle. Could be an isolated 70-degree reading, but that will more likely happen as we go through the weekend. Could be up near 70, Glen Allen, 62, Anchorage, and so temperatures not excessively warm, certainly not like what they've been the past week or two. And then here, back overnight, Friday night, Thursday night, and Friday morning, lows generally just above 50 across the Panhandle. Maybe slightly warmer, getting some readings with a southwesterly flow, staying above 50 along Cook Inlet, extending up to Talkeetna, but we also have cloud cover around. And then Friday afternoon, maybe just a brief interval of drier conditions, but then the next surge of moisture coming in. We are expecting cooler and wetter weather here, especially by Friday evening and Saturday. And temperatures out through the Panhandle, notice here, 66, 67 around Craig on over toward Ketchikan. That may be a little underdone, but certainly as we get into Saturday, I would expect some 70-degree readings here. Being pretty likely. Now looking at the interior, low temperatures stay above 50 across the middle upper Yukon, Tanana valleys. Temperatures in the mid-30s, quite cool along the northwest Arctic coast. High temperatures, though, are coming down. Instead of those 70s and 80-degree readings we've seen here a few days ago, highs are only going to be near 60 at best. Wet there at Fairbanks for the 4th of July. And cool temperatures, wet conditions, 40s to low 50s in here through the Seward Peninsula, eastern, or I should say west central portion of the mainland with the rain coming down. Low temperatures come Friday morning, near 50, central, eastern, interior, and then along the Arctic coast down through Point Hope. We're looking at lows generally mid-upper 30s. And then daytime highs for Friday afternoon, warmest and potentially a little drier down toward Northway, but otherwise there'll be some showers that'll still be working their way eastward, maybe not quite the initial coverage as what comes through on the 4th of July. And then we still have some lingering areas of rain all through this region. Also rain likely upward along the northwest Arctic coast. For the southwest interior, lows will be in the 40s to near 50 degrees, 40s generally down along the Alaska Peninsula and into the Aleutians. And then temperatures Thursday afternoon generally in the 50s, still could be up around or a bit above 60 McGrath and down toward King Salmon, but otherwise this push of moisture is going to be riding up along the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula by the time we get into Friday afternoon and Friday night. Friday morning lows generally again in the 40s to near 50 degrees area wide. And then for Friday afternoon, there is this push of milder air coming in off the Bering Sea. This is going to have rain with it. And we expect temperatures could, though, be in the low 60s again, especially on the west side of the Alaska Range, and with that moisture creeping northeastward as we head through Friday afternoon, Friday night into Saturday. So this is the weather story One thing I showed you, all the heat advisories and excessive heat warnings there in the lower 48. Whenever you get that big hot dome of weather in the western U.S., when that heat dome and ridge builds, especially in July, it cools Alaska down because we get into the trough. The atmosphere is a series of trough and ridges, and the position of where we are located geographically and with the oceans and everything else allows these steady state features in the atmosphere to set up. So anticipate below normal temperatures here leading up into mid-month, with the greatest likelihood of below normal temperatures, a place that has been cooler than normal much of the winter and spring. Southwest Alaska, surrounding Norton Sound, Bethel, Dillingham, down across the Alaska Peninsula into the eastern Aleutians. Maybe not quite as cool in the northeast or in southern parts of the Panhandle, but July 9th through the 13th, definitely looking as temperatures will be below normal across the state. And then for precipitation could average a bit above normal with the greatest likelihood along the northwestern Gulf Coast, areas surrounding the Kenai Peninsula, inland on across the Alaska Range, all the way up into the eastern Arctic coast, and then down into the northern Panhandle. The trend would be that we can expect precipitation to average above normal.